You're listening to Saturday Morning Media. And now, back to our show. Under the Puppet is made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who support the show over at patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media. Welcome to Under the Puppet, the show that talks to professional puppeteers about the art and business of puppetry with the sole purpose of helping you up your puppet game. My name is Grandpa Choco, and this is Under the Puppet. Welcome back to Under the Puppet. This episode, we have an interview with puppeteer Kevin Carlson. You've seen Kevin's work on Pee-wee's Playhouse, where he played Clocky, Flory, and after Season 1, Conky. He also played the title character in The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth. He was Mr. Potato Head on the Mr. Potato Head Show and works regularly with the Muppets. Here now is my interview with Kevin Carlson. Kevin Carlson, welcome to Under the Puppet.
Well, thank you, Grant. Great to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. We have been friends for a while, and I'm a big admirer of your puppetry, so I'm happy to have you on the show.
Well, thanks. Likewise, I'm a big fan of yours, too.
Oh, thank you. Let's just talk about how much we like each other.
Okay,
the whole episode.
Wanna...
We'll do that. No, let's talk about puppets. Do you remember your first exposure to puppetry?
Yeah, I actually demonstrated puppets for a Christian puppet company that was manufacturing small puppets for the Broadway department store.
Okay, yeah.
And I would harass people as they walked by with the little puppets, and that was my first paid gig. And I was about 14 at the time, something like that.
Wow. And it was, did you just fall into that job, or you were like, oh, puppets, I want to work with puppets?
Yeah, I tell you, the Muppet Show was at its highlight. Mm-hmm. And I would stay home and watch the Muppet Show. My friends would say, well, hey, let's go out. And I said, I'm going to spend a half hour and watch the Muppet Show. They thought I was crazy, but I mean, that's what inspired me to really become a puppeteer.
Yeah.
Is falling in love with those characters, and then also realizing that there's men doing these characters. There's people that are supplying the voices and doing the puppetry, and it's like, it was fascinating to me, and it hooked me.
And how did you get hooked up with this department store gig? Or this, working with the puppets?
It was a long time ago, so I forget. I was working with this Christian puppet company that they supplied puppets for Christian ministries and things of that nature, and we did Sunday school shows and things like that too. So I was doing church puppet shows, Jonah and the Whale, and stuff like that. In fact, that was the first show I wrote too, was Jonah and the Whale.
Well, there and I don't know if this is, I mean, it's known in the puppetry world, but there's a huge sort of Christian puppet, using puppets in church. I don't know what genre of puppetry.
Right. And one of the first jobs I had was with Sid and Marty Krofft, with Oral Roberts.
Oh, really?
And Oral Roberts had a family of puppets that would set up situations that he would preachify about. Uh-huh. So I played Grandpa Fudge. That was my first, first real job.
Yeah.
But I had also started with Sid and Marty Krofft when they had their puppet workshop. Back in the day, they were looking for puppets or puppeteers because they had the Barbara Mandrell show and they had this Oral Roberts thing happening, so they needed puppeteers. And one of the funny things was I was at Cal State Fullerton at the time, and I was late to class, and I was going up the stairwell, and in the middle of the stairwell there was a bulletin board that had a picture of these two hands, and it says, "Are you skilled with your hands? Okay, would you like to be a puppeteer?" And then it was a Sid and Marty Krofft workshop audition. And so I remember reading it going, hey, that's cool. And then I'm late to class, so I started to go back up the stairs, and I said, wait a minute, that's a sign. I got to go back and read it. And I wrote the number down, and I called and got in and was chosen. I guess there was only 25 of us out of about 500 people that auditioned for it. And it was Alan Troutman and Bruce Lanoil and Todd Maddox, Terry Hardin.
Yeah, what was the audition like?
It was
do you remember?
Intensive, yeah. Tony Urbano actually ran the auditions. And different sections, they wanted to see if we could marionette, and then also, lip sync and improv and do all the stuff that, it was pretty intensive. And the workshop was really great, too, because they had great people come in to help work with us to get better.
And this was for television? Like, was that the goal?
It was primarily for television, yeah, because Sid and Marty Krofft were doing a whole bunch of stuff.
I just asked because Tom Fountain was on the show, and he said he worked with Sid and Marty Krofft like in the theme parks. So I didn't know if this would that be part of that, or this was more TV focused.
Yeah, it was more TV focused. Yeah.
Did you end up working on jobs from that workshop?
Well, yeah, I got the Oral Roberts television show, which I got in the union, and I was like 19 playing Grandpa Fudge.
Yeah, Grandpa Fudge.
And how many episodes of that did you do? Do you remember?
I think we did like maybe 10 until the Oral Roberts, his congregation, whatever. I think they were a little weirded out by the puppets. I think somebody called them devil dolls, and then it kind of went south from there.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're not far off. They're pretty. No, I'm kidding. Well, you also in your early career you worked with Jim Henson, right?
I did. I auditioned for the Muppet Show on tour for Jane Henson here in Los Angeles, and so I got on that tour, and it was a 9-month tour in major cities across the U.S. And got to meet Jim in New York and tour the shop and everything. Mm-hmm. So it was great. I actually met my wife on the tour too, Susan.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she played Miss Piggy. I'm not supposed to say that though, so we might have to edit that out.
All right, sure.
I don't want to get in trouble,
Right.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. And so were these like full body costumes?
Yeah, they're full body costumes, and pretty successful show. I mean, we played arenas. They do half of the arena, and I played most of the puppet characters, like the rats in the balcony, and then there was a little feature of the Muppet Babies came on and did a little, and they were puppets. So I was kind of the puppeteer of the show.
Wow.
And had the other dancers had to do some puppetry too, and I had to help teach them. But what a great experience! I mean, I just graduated from college, and then all of a sudden out and about. And one thing I noticed about this country is that almost every shopping mall about the same.
Yeah.
You can pretty much count on. There's going to be a Cinnabon. There's going to be a whatever.
But that's like I don't know how many shows you did, but you went out on a huge, the number of shows, but you went out for several months, and I mean that's what an amazing learning experience even that is.
Right. It was great. I mean, you only could carry 2 suitcases, so it's a test of what you can't buy a bunch of stuff unless you ship stuff home.
Right.
And plus you're not making that much money. I mean, we didn't make very much money on that tour. It was mostly just for the experience.
Yeah.
It was a bus and truck. So we would have we travel day Monday and Tuesday we would have off, and then shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 shows on Saturday, 2 shows on Sunday. So it was a pretty strenuous schedule, but I was young.
Yeah.
I fell in love too. So
there you go, young and in love with the Muppets on the bus.
Right.
Was that the sort of the start of your working with the Muppets? Because you've worked with the Muppets for a while.
Yeah. That was pretty much the first job with the Muppets. My second job was the 3D movie, the
Muppet Vision 3D.
Muppet Vision 3D.
Yeah.
And I had a great experience on that because I was doing one of those small world characters in the back, and all of a sudden I see in the monitor there's a character right next to me that wasn't in the last take, and I look over and it's Jim. Jim had put on a little small world character and was working right next to me.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And he was just, he was great.
Yeah. Did you learn anything from working with Jim in that? Because that was kind of one of his last projects was that Muppet Vision 3D, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, no. He's just a gentle giant. I mean, with charisma and confidence, and you couldn't help but admire him.
Yeah. Yeah. You also worked on Pee-wee's Playhouse,
right?
Where you played Clocky and Flory. And you stepped into Conky.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask about this, and we'll talk a little bit more about working on the show, but is that the puppets on Pee-wee's Playhouse are sort of different from
much different.
Henson Company.
Exactly. Not your Muppet style puppets.
Yeah.
However, the same things apply as characters. They're characters that have to have, they have to be driven.
Yeah.
And, as actor puppeteers have to supply the voice and the acting. And
right.
When I say acting, I usually lift up my hand like that.
To show that you're acting.
Right.
Yeah, but for, like a puppet like Conky, when you went into that,
right.
I mean, was that difficult to operate him? Because it's not a
right.
Foam and fleece puppet.
Right. Right. Yeah, it was difficult. I think the performer who did in the first season was a little smaller than I barely fit in it, and the door would close right onto my shins with this nice aluminum thing. I had to get used to that, and it was painful. And I couldn't get in and out of the costume by myself. I mean, I had to have a dresser help me. And once the head was on, I couldn't take my head off,
Right.
And one of the funny things was, it's like I would just sit on set and just try to stay motionless because it hurt to move. When you had to make him activate it, it was like things were poking and it was uncomfortable. But you work through the pain. So I would sit motionless and just kind of just find my happy place and just breathe, right?
Well, squeeze a rusty nail.
Right. So this lighting guy comes up with dulling spray and starts spraying my shield on my helmet. Right, it's like spraying me right in the face. I said, "Dude, I'm in here. Take my head off. I can't breathe." So I was high the rest of the shoot because that dulling spray is nasty.
Yeah. Well, there you go. For fans of Pee-wee's Playhouse, just know that Conky was in tremendous pain every time you saw him move.
Right. One of the things I remember too about Paul came up to me and we were talking about Clocky. What voice should Clocky? Because Edie McClurg was Clocky in the live Pee-wee show, and there's been a couple others, and so I remember Paul talking about it. Well, what are you going to do for the voice? And well, I was thinking maybe you should have a little lisp. and Paul immediately goes, "You mean like a lateral lisp?" And so that's how Clocky got his kind of lisp, because he had teeth. He had little rolling numbers for teeth that looked like braces. So I just kind of took a cue from that and added the lisp. It's time for a penny cartoon.
When you're creating a character, do you spend a lot of time looking at the puppet if the puppet's been built beforehand?
Well, it gives you a lot of clues. Kind of gives you a sense or a feeling or a something. In fact, that's a great. When I'm helping teach puppetry to people, and I'll have a bunch of characters and just on the printed on paper, and then flash them the picture, and they have to come up with a voice right away based on just the look, right? And because it evokes a feeling or emotion or some sort of something, a trigger, so that so that plays a big part. Yeah.
And did you have, you said you talked to Paul to create the voice of Clocky. Did you also do that with Flory? Like, did you kind of have discussions about that?
A little bit, but with Flory, it was on my voice demo tape that I had submitted to him. And actually I had to play it for him at the audition. And it was funny because some of the other voices I had done on there weren't very good, I didn't think, but I just was kind of like, I put it together quickly and threw it out there. But when he got to Flory, it was that Craggy. There was just like a voice, a DJ, like a jazz DJ kind of voice thing. And he goes, "Whoa, I like that." So, and then I did it for him. And so Flory became that.
Yeah. That, man, because we're both friends, of course, with Allison Mork and the stories she's told. I mean, that just seemed like it was a ton of fun to work on that show.
Oh, we had a blast, yeah. And, Wayne White and Rick Heitzman and George McGrath, Lynn Stewart. I mean, we hung out. And there was a lot of downtime where we just had such a great time together.
Yeah. And, well, you were making creating shows
right
behind the scenes on the show.
Right. We did a lot of wacky things. That was a great experience, and they treated us really well. And Paul was great. Paul and I are still friends. I mean, he's super nice. I like because he's very just mild mannered.
Yeah.
And then you watch him wind up.
Yeah. You were also one of the creators of a show called The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth. Can you talk a little bit about the creation of that show? How that came about?
Sure. I was, during Pee-wee's Playhouse, I was helping a buddy do a Halloween fixture installment thing. And he goes, "Yeah, so you're a puppeteer." I said, "Yeah, I'm working on Pee-wee's Playhouse and this and that." He goes, "Well, do you make your own puppets?" And I went, "Well, no." He goes, "Why not? You're a puppeteer. Why don't you make your own puppets? Why aren't you doing your own show? Why aren't you doing your own thing?" I said, "Gosh, you're right, So I put together a Timmy the Tooth variety show with my partner James Murray and Dina Fraboni, and it was going to be like a birthday party show. I mean, we could hire out, because James had a kids entertainment company for birthday parties and whatnot. So this would be an extension of his kind of business too, with this puppet show. And so we wrote this, it's just wacky kind of variety show that featured Timmy the Tooth. and it was a puppet that we had made, and his sidekick Brush,
right.
which was just a cleaning brush with a lot of hot glue,
Yeah.
and but the show had a lot of charm. And we did a lot of just wacky things, and people seemed to like it.
Did you do birthday parties? Like,
we did.
You actually tour
we
around
did.
doing birthday parties?
And we did like Bob Saget's birthday party.
Oh, wow.
For his daughter, and this is back in the day. And
Yeah.
Jim Landis or John Landis, he gave us a jar of pickles as a tip, which I'll never forget because that's
You don't forget a tip like
you
that.
don't, and
Yeah.
they were good pickles too.
Yeah.
So, anyways, from the variety show, we were we did a theater run at the Gypsy Playhouse in right by the Burbank Studios on Olive, and where Olive and Alameda meet.
Mm-hmm.
It's now raised. They're putting up a Whole Foods or something there now.
Yeah.
Small little theater, and we hyped it up, and we had people coming. We did 2 shows on a Saturday, and so we'd fill it up, and we were selling tickets. And so as we were breaking things down, we all just kind of said, we could probably take this to the next level, maybe, and so we sat down and retooled everything, and took it and shopped it around to all the majors, and Universal. You could see that they jumped on it right away, and you could tell because we had the first meeting was really great. Our pitch went great. There was no weirdness, and nobody threw up at the table or anything. We were
always good.
Yeah, that's always good. And the woman, Susie Peterson was her name at the time. She was in charge of home video, and she got the next meeting. We had a callback meeting basically, but she had got all the major players, the marketing, advertising, the television division. So all of a sudden now we're pitching to a bunch of people, and I'll never forget one of the guys was like the marketing guy, who actually stood up at the conference table and said, "No, I think this is good. I think we can make this work," and kind of was like telling everybody that he sees the potential in it.
Yeah.
And it was great. We had, I think, $2.5 million to do 10 half-hour episodes. And Dina and James and I, we had a executive producer, Jillian Sousan, and she kind of spearheaded, and we were all kind of new to production, but at the same time we've had enough experience to how to do it, and got the right people, and it was really a great experience. I mean, it was our own show, and
yeah.
I think looking back, there was about 100 so people or 100 jobs created because of it.
Yeah, well, and it's. I was looking up clips before we talked, and the show just looks great. Like the sets were big, and
yeah.
I saw a clip of Timmy and Brush. They're in a boat, and you have rolling waves, and
yeah.
It was really high production, and it was really fantastic.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. I can't watch it unless I'm drinking a 6-pack of beer. I see all the things that I wish I would have changed. But I do. We had a set designer, Naomi Slodky was her name, and Timmy in Space. So we relied on big, large backdrops, right? Painted backdrops, and it was Timmy in Space, and she had painted the observatory kind of little structure that was on the backdrop. But when you looked at it closely, it just kind of looked like a phallic thing. And so we all walk in, and Naomi goes, "There it is. Do you love it?" And we all said, "Whoa, that really looks like what it looks like."
Yeah.
And she goes, "I know. Don't you love it?" And so we said, "Yeah." And so we had to shoot around it, of course, because it was just too in your face.
Yeah. Timmy, one thing about that show, The Adventures of Timmy Tooth, it was very musical, and I think one of the little clips I saw online said, there's 4 songs in every episode, and you were singing. Did you have any formal singing training before that?
I had just a private coach, but Joyce Mbisi was our music director, and she was really great, and then we also we utilized some of our friends too that were songwriters and contributed too. So yeah, it was the main theme song and then 3 original songs.
Yeah. Would you recommend for puppeteers to take private voice lessons?
Well, absolutely. It's all part of your ammunition. You know,
Yeah.
it's having your arsenal full of everything. So it's a matter of getting better all the time. Don't settle for just leveling off.
Yeah. And have you come across a lot of puppet projects where you do have to sing?
Yeah, there's quite often.
Yeah.
There's a lot of singing. I did a piece with the Sid Marty Krofft. The Toby Terrier was a little toy dog that had a video sensor that would activate from the TV. So you'd sit with the dog in front of the TV. Toby Terrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And sounded a little bit like Timmy the Tooth. Don't tell anybody. Yeah, so he had a lot of singing too. So, and then in Pee-wee's Playhouse we did a lot too.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Potato Head Show, there was a lot of singing too.
Yeah, I see puppets and singing seems
it's
to
singing,
go along.
right?
Yeah,
and it's interesting too because for sometimes I feel like I can sing better in a character voice than my own. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Which is funny.
I agree.
Or
yeah.
it's easier or less. You know, it seems like I can sing better and.
Well, I often find too,
voice.
it's like, oh, if the character hits a wrong note,
yeah,
that's
part of the
okay.
character,
right? Yeah, of course.
There's no judgment.
Right. He's not a perfect singer. One last thing about Timmy I wanted to ask is the clips that I watched. The puppet is just a really great puppet because it's got eye blinks, but the eyes also move as well. And I often, if I'm handed a puppet that has a lot of mechanics inside, like I'm a little intimidated.
Yeah.
But like, how do you go about, like, is it just working with the puppet and getting better at it, or do you have any techniques or tips you could give us?
Well, Michael Earl, the late Michael Earl, actually did my eyes, did the eyes and the eyebrows, so he did a lot of the acting.
Right.
And there were times where I didn't have to do much because he was covering, he was giving the emotions. So I just had to make sure both eyes were in the frame, Right. And that was a brilliant thing. And he got so good at it that he could kind of anticipate my moves, and likewise he would lead me to turn and look and things too. So we had a really good teamwork puppetry moments together on that, which was really great.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was there, you never had to worry about, he was just so focused into it. And some of the characters he did on the show were really fantastic. He did Miss Flossie, and she just killed me. She was just so boisterous and stupid and funny, and
Yeah.
In fact, we had a cavalcade of Puppeteers.
I was looking down the list.
Did I just say cavalcade?
Cavalcade. But yeah, there's a lot of people like who I know now who are all like amazing people. Like Alan Troutman worked on that.
Bruce,
Greg Ballora, Bruce,
Christine Pabalexis.
Yeah.
Greg Ballora, yeah. Anyways, a great experience.
Yeah, well, I recommend definitely look up clips for our listeners. Look up clips online. I mean, I'm not going to say for you because you have to drink before you you watch them. But.
Right, and there's a lot of people that have had fun with it too. They've replaced the dialogue, so there are some clips that are a little disturbing because they're not the real deal. It's been satirized.
Yeah, but there's plenty of clips on there to definitely check them out.
Absolutely,
and I would recommend it. You puppeteered with the Muppets for a long time, including the most recent movies and the television series, and the Hollywood Bowl, where they just performed at the Hollywood Bowl. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you do when you work with the Muppets?
Well, I'm not one of the core guys like Dave Goelz and Rudman and Vogel, but I am an assist. And like on the television show, I ended up doing a lot of assisting. So various things, but then there were times where Bill had to do another character, Bill Beretta,
Yes, yeah, he's been on the show.
Love him. And then he would hand me, like, I had to do Pepe because he had to go to another character, so I would do Pepe for that part of the scene, and then they'd cut to his thing, and so it was great because you're working with the best. This is the world's leading best puppet company, recognized around the world. So there's a satisfaction being on the same floor with these guys. And, most of my contributions were assisting mostly.
But that's a big job.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a huge job.
And like when you assist Dave Goelz, you can have fun, but you better deliver, you know? Or Dave will let you have it. He'll kick you in the shins.
Well, and when you assist somebody, do you ask them like what? Like when Bill handed you Pepe, is there any sort of conversation of like, Pepe, or do you just Pepe because you've seen him enough?
Yeah,
like you kind of know what he would do.
And I could do Pepe maybe a little bit, but I don't do it like he does it, so they know they're going to redub it. They're going to do it. So, but Bill, he gave me a note like, try not to open the mouth too big, just kind of lower, so it's not too flappy.
Right.
So, and it's tricky. It's a tricky puppet to work, you got to really, it's finesse. You have to really finesse it.
Yeah. And so there is that discussion, though, with the
Absolutely.
Performers of what they would do.
Who's ever doing the head and the voice and whatever has an idea of what you can and can't do. Like I've assisted Fozzie, with Eric, and Eric will let you know exactly what he wants. He'll just either tell you, or if you're doing too much, he'll put his other hand on your hand and pull you down.
Yeah.
Which is, you don't want to do too much. You don't want to bring too much attention if you're assisting. You want to support and assist, and it's an important part of the whole deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, assisting is very well. Even back when you were talking about Timmy the Tooth, is Michael Earl assisting you with the eyes? Assisting is a huge thing.
Teamwork. It's all about teamwork.
Well, I think I already know the answer to this, and people will too, but I would love to hear it. As a puppeteer who's worked with the Jim Henson Company and the Muppets, is there work outside of those two companies? I mean, you talked about creating your own thing, but do you puppeteer on other things regularly?
Yeah, I do. I get calls for things. I recently worked on the Thundermans, which was a sitcom for Nickelodeon. Mm-hmm. I played the rabbit, the talking rabbit, Dr. Colosso. And so that's, looks like a real rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Colosso. And he's evil bunny. So that's, there's been some video game puppet projects that I've worked on. I mean, there are jobs that come around that are not Muppet related.
Well, and thinking back to the origins of Timmy the Tooth, do you recommend for puppeteers to work on their own projects, to create their own stuff?
Absolutely. I think that's the beauty of it, too. I mean, it's your own creation, your own thing. I mean, Jim was creating things all the time, you know? And he was never, his workbook was full of ideas and things, So I think that, I got inspired by my buddy John, Jim Landis. I always say John and Jim, whatever. The pickle guy or the prop guy. And so, just someone kind of encouraging you to you should be doing this, or and then listening to that. Same with like going up the stairwell and passing by this signpost for me, because that changed my life. Yeah, and I came back down and took the number and took it seriously, and not just brushed it off. I actually listened. I listened to the signs, and creating your own show, you can create work for other people as well. Yeah. So creating it's an important thing.
Well, and you also have had the good fortune of getting to work with, the sort of the same group of people on multiple different projects. So we talk about Greg Ballora and Bruce Lanoil and Christine Papalexis and Alison Mork. Do you think it's good to make those connections?
Absolutely. Plus we're friends. I mean, we like to, imbibe after shows and things. I mean, and we've been doing it together for a long time. Yeah. And each of us have our own strengths, too, so.
Well, and also I think working with them, you can anticipate what, if you're assisting somebody like we talked about.
Greg and I had great fun together. I was Mr. Potato Head on the Potato Head series for Fox, and it was a fun show. And he was Baloney, the sidekick, and it was a puppet that was just it was a canned ham kind of baloney thing. Yeah, and it was, I don't know how he got it to work, but it was charming as anything. And we had so much fun together as just Mr. Potato Head and Baloney, the sidekick. Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, we would love to spend every single day working on puppetry projects, but that's not always the case. What do you do when there isn't any work during the dry spells?
Well, I do write. I'm creating a show right now for a winery. It's a radio show called WINO Radio. It's kind of like Prairie Home Companion, but on wine. Yeah. Yeah, so I have that little project. And I also do a lot of gardening and, trying to keep my wife happy.
Do you do voiceover work as well?
I do minimal stuff, though. I get handed a lot of minimal stuff,
but it's another outlet for when there's no puppetry work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, when I asked you to be a guest on this show, you said you wanted to talk about a certain project that you work on. So can you tell us the story about Puppet Greetings?
Puppet Greetings, right?
Yeah, because it's about creating your own stuff.
Absolutely. After Timmy the Tooth, I was able to own a lot of the characters, and then I could redress them and fix them up to do whatever. And Puppet Greetings, the internet was just starting, basically, back in, 2000 somewhere. Anyways, it was dial-up. It was like the anyways, we wanted to do an e-card site with puppets, and so we did it and launched it and got it going, and we started to have subscribers, and it was fun, and using these old characters and creating new whacked kind of fun things to do with these characters. But I guess it never really caught on per se. Mm-hmm. And then when YouTube came along, everything was free. Right. So it kind of like nobody wanted to pay for anything anymore.
Yeah.
And we had a couple licensing deals, so we had a trickle of revenue, but it was not enough to keep doing it. So we just had to pull the plug on it. But a great experience nonetheless. I mean, anytime you venture out on your own and try to, keep a business going and continue to create and put energy into it to make it happen, and I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I'll create something else and maybe fail.
Yeah,
but that's okay. You got to keep going.
Right. You get these frustrations, but you got to create other things. If it doesn't work out, maybe as well as you would hope to, it worked out.
Yeah. Well, we gave it a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I look back at it. I look back at the whole thing, and I think, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Even though I wish it would have really taken off. And because now with the way the internet is now, the immediacy of video is so prevalent. And we were doing it way back before it was, you had to wait.
Right.
It was buffering and loading.
Well, before this interview, I was looking up more about it, and I found a discussion board where people were talking about, like, when it had just come out. It was like, oh, look at this, and look at all these puppeteers working on it. And then one of the comments was like, I hope they have something so that us dial-up users can,
right?
like, really, because it was back in the day of where it wasn't everyone had broadband or Wi-Fi internet.
Right. Yeah. Dial-up.
Yeah. My puppet greeting is coming in. Hold on.
Wait. It's my birthday.
Yeah.
Well, I think the concept was good. Just, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay, fine. You were the one that said...
you're right.
No,
you're
okay.
right.
So, you're somebody... There's I assume you go out on puppet auditions from time to time for different projects. Maybe without naming names, what is the worst puppet audition experience you've ever had?
Oh, well, there's been a few. I remember one just not really relating to any of the characters, first of all,
mm-hmm.
and trying to bring some life into the sides, but not the characters. None of them seemed... I wasn't connecting with any of the characters, so that's really tough when you're not giving,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of flop sweat there. That's what I do remember a couple times. But if there's a character that I really admire or like, and I like the way it's written, and then I get super excited about it, and I can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the opposite end of that.
Right. And even if there is a character, or you don't relate to the characters, you still go in and do the audition, right?
Yeah. I think every audition, it just builds your confidence and gets you. Yeah, you learn to work through your nerves and get through. So each time you do it, you get a little better at it. And then also, I was going out for commercials too, as myself, and I just that frustration of getting back into the car after the audition, and feeling like a piece of meat,
Yeah.
Profiles, and you turn and there's a piece of meat. Profiles, the other side. Are you willing to shave? And I'd always say, like, right now? No, it never worked. But I think I landed like one commercial in 4 years or something.
Yeah.
But driving home thinking, oh, why didn't I do that? Or why didn't it's just no, you just have to flush out all of that stuff because it's not going to matter anymore. It's just know that the next time you go in, be yourself, be sincere, be excited. Even if the people are still looking at their devices,
right? Still
be happy.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do now. They don't even look up until you start.
Yeah.
It's kind of irritating.
But it's part of the business.
Yeah.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
Are you a builder? Do you build your own puppets?
I've built a few, but I recognize that my finishing skills aren't as good as they probably could be, and that's why there's professionals that actually do that work. So
right.
I'm grateful that I know people who will build for me if I need to.
Exactly. I'm kind of in the same boat. It's
yeah.
I have built a few, but if I can, have a.
They don't kind of end up looking like what you thought they would look like. Right.
Yeah.
I've built Captain Bucky is one of the characters that I do, and it was pretty heavy on puppet greetings, but I still use him, and he's a character that I built. I had a little help with Mark Brian Wilson helped me with it too, and there's certain things that I like that I did with it, but yeah, I'm not a builder.
Yeah,
I go to the people who do build and let those artists bring their artistry.
Right. Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, about knowing those people, knowing those friends, and working with those friends, because they can help you out with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some things that you always bring with you onto the set to help your job go easier?
Well, I think, an attitude, a good attitude, a work ethic attitude of everybody has a position, the cameramen, the electricians, the grips. For me, I like to get to know the grips and people that I might need something from, like an Apple box. If I need an Apple box, I want to know who the grip is so I can just go up, hey, Steve or Bob or whatever. It's like, I think you can get me an Apple box. I mean, yeah, because that makes it easier, and they respect you for respecting them, Yeah. So I think you bring in an attitude of teamwork, and you're here for a job, and so yeah. Yeah,
that's a very important thing to
bring having a really good attitude. Yeah.
Not being like, I'm the star, where's my puppet?
Yeah.
I'm done.
I need an Apple box.
Yeah.
Somebody bring me an Apple box.
You there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What has been the highlight of your puppetry career so far?
Well, I think looking back, working with Jim Henson on the 3D film was probably, that was a highlight for me. I also had an opportunity. I was working on for Jim and Dave. And Frank Oz. They were doing a Disney's 35th special at Disneyland, and I was called in to maybe do some rats in the background or whatever, and ended up just kind of assisting here and there, not doing very much. But Dave Goelz's father took ill, and Dave had to leave, and so Frank Oz came up to me and goes,
"Kevin, your name's Kevin, right? You're a puppeteer, right?"
I said, "Yeah, I'm a puppeteer." Whee, I'm a puppeteer.
Now Dave had to leave, and we have to do this scene. You think you could do Gonzo?
And I'm like, inside, I'm just going, yes, yes. And I said, yes, I could. Yeah,
I think I could.
I could do this. And so, did this whole scene with Frank. Oh, it's funny because Frank, he goes,
"All right, you have 20 minutes. Learn your lines. I'll meet you on set."
And it was like I could barely read the lines because I was so excited.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And we did the scene, and Frank was super nice to me and helped me be better, and then Dave had to redub it, because my Gonzo's nowhere near what Dave is, but I contributed, helped the scene get so they could finish.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you talked about puppeteering on Muppet Vision 3D, and you look over and Jim's next to you, but to do a scene with Frank Oz, because Frank Oz, you talk about puppeteer,
right.
He is a puppeteer,
right.
And
he's the demigod.
Yeah. So that must have been just amazing.
Yeah, totally great. Yeah, that was a highlight, no doubt.
Who is a puppeteer that you think every puppeteer should look at and maybe watch their stuff and study? Or you can name more than one too if you want to.
Well, I think Matt Vogel and Peter Linz. I watch them work, and they're always discovering things. Another puppeteer, Frank Meshkalite from Canada.
Okay.
Frank Meshkalite. He does his own show too, but I worked with him on a music video type thing, and I learned so much from him because he was the lead squirrel puppet character, whatever, and the director was kind of a schlub, and he goes, all right, everybody take 5, whatever, So he should have been resting, but instead he was discovering, and the script super was watching the monitor, and I happened to walk by, and Frank's working. He's discovering things, and he was just doing some sort of nose picking, something, just a silly pantomime, clownish thing, and he should be resting. Instead, he's playing and discovering, and when I saw him do that, I was thinking, he's plunging forward. He's not just leveling off.
Right.
So that was a big inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Meshkalite. I think that's how he says his name.
We'll have to have him on the show.
You
so
should.
He can,
He's fascinating, too.
Yeah, I would love to.
Funny.
Yeah. Who's your favorite puppet character that is not your own? That you enjoy watching?
Wow. I like Chip on Dave Goles' Chip on the Muppet series.
The Muppet series, yeah. He really came into his own on that.
Yeah. I had a great experience because I got to do Chip at one of the conference table scenes, and he was kind of in the background. And so I was just playing with a pencil and sticking it in his face, and Dave was doing, Gonzo at the table, and he saw me doing that, and he goes, "Oh, who's doing that?" And it's Kevin, and Dave, "I like that," and it was like, yes,
yeah,
I did something good.
Yeah. And then the opposite of that, what's your favorite puppet character that you do?
Oh,
or have done over the years?
It's funny. I really liked Mr. Potato Head for some reason because it was written funny, and it was just he was boisterous and loud and frantic and funny. So I like Mr. Potato Head.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, what is the latest project that you've worked on?
Well, I just did a guest star on Lucifer, the show Lucifer.
Okay.
It's in their third season, and there's a puppet character. The suspect is the host of a sitcom with these puppet characters, and I pop up from the couch and do a little goofy thing with the guy, and then Lucifer comes out of the stands and interrupts the sitcom taping, and then pulls the head of the puppet off of my hand, exposes my hand, and then I stand up and you see me, and he shushes me away, and then he ends up shooting the host. But anyways, it was a great experience because I'm not used to going into hair and makeup,
Right.
So right this way, Mr.
You're
Carlson.
doing puppetry, and
then I'm on camera, and then the whole time I'm thinking, oh, geez, I'm overacting. Anyways, it was great. And what I loved is when I asked the director, I said, well, what's the tone? Is it meant to be kind of stupid? And he goes, oh, the stupider the better. And I said, that's right in my wheelhouse.
I got you.
I got you covered.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, well, people can check that out, and I will put a link to your IMDb page so people can see all the other stuff that you've done. And Kevin, just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Grant, I'm digging the flavor of your Kool-Aid.
All right. It's always about drinking with you. What's going on?
Is that what all the kids say these days?
Sure, that's exactly what they say. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Grant.
My thanks to Kevin Carlson for being on this episode. For a link to Kevin's IMDb page, visit the show notes for this episode number 9, over at underthepuppet.com. To wrap up this episode, I wanted to talk about the Jim Henson Foundation. Started in 1982 by Jim Henson, the Jim Henson Foundation helps develop and produce new works of American contemporary puppet theater. Each year, the Jim Henson Foundation bestows grants on puppeteers to help them create and perform new works of puppetry in the United States. In addition, the Henson Foundation curates a pretty comprehensive list of puppetry-related events taking place all across the country. If you're a puppeteer looking for a grant to help you develop your own puppetry work, or you just want to see what puppetry events are happening in your area, it's worth your time to visit the Jim Henson Foundation website at hensonfoundation.org. For a direct link, you can check out the show notes for this episode. Once again, that's episode number 9, over at underthepuppet.com. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Under the Puppet. I welcome your feedback via email at hello@SaturdayMorningMedia.com or via Twitter, where the show is at username Under the Puppet. You can also comment on Facebook, where you can find the show's page by searching Under the Puppet. I want to hear your suggestions for questions I should be asking and future guests. And the goal of this show is to talk to puppeteers making it happen in all sorts of styles of puppetry. So if you know an amazing Boonraku or shadow puppet artist, please reach out. Let me know who I should be talking to. Thank you so much for listening. Under the Puppet is a production of Saturday Morning Media and is made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a monthly donation for as little as $1 a month. Huge thanks to Shay Stewart, Mer Lafferty, Jeff Peterson, Dale Gadania, Steven Staver, Jackie Climo, Melissa Crawford, Dave Slusher of the Evil Genius Chronicles, Mike Coughlin, Dorothy Pachoco, John D., Kathy Crawford, Brian Greer, Kerry Whitney, Chuck Tomasi from the Technorama Podcast, Chris Foster, Stephen Ing, Clinton of ComedyForecast.com, Vicky DeVries, Mike Wabshall, Twitter user Butts and Gear, a.k.a. Wildcat, Eve Cunning, Mike Hamilton, Gaston Moreno, Reed Loveland, Ivan Asquith, Vanessa Whitney, Janine Lee, Peggy Etra, Kristen Hogan of Squid Friends, David Akers, Zoe Palladino, Ellen Multari, Christopher Harris, Rachel Jackson of Vox Fabuli Puppets, Carolyn Weisner, John Petty, Rachel Hansen, Andrew, Darcy Prevost, Fernando Torres, and Ron McAdams. If you'd like to support this show and the other fun content from Saturday Morning Media, become a patron. Head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up your monthly donation today. You can also tell a friend about the show or leave the show a review on iTunes. And while you're over there in the iTunes Apple Podcast directory, be sure to click that subscribe button. That way you'll get new episodes the moment they are released. Under the Puppet is copyright 2017 Saturday Morning Media Grant Pachoco executive producer, all rights reserved. www.saturdaymorningmedia.com. You've been listening to Saturday Morning Media. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.